So this past summer, I was on a yoga retreat just off the coast of Portland, Maine. And I was telling the people on this retreat that I was starting a podcast soon called Seacoast Stories about the local people, the news items of the Seacoast area. And so I'm asking people, who should I have on the podcast? Who are the prominent people? And someone casually says to me, oh, you should talk to Duncan. And I'm like, who's Duncan? They said, Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson is from this area, the Miami Heat player, right? This isn't some actor I've never heard of. No, yeah, Duncan. We know him. He goes to his studio all the time. Really? What are you talking about? Three Bridges Yoga, which apparently is a studio that Duncan Robinson, forward for the Miami Heat, has been known to frequent. So, Duncan, I had to track you down, but I'm really excited to talk to you. You're a long requested guest on the show, so welcome.
Oh, I love it. I'm happy we were able to make it work. Yeah, I'm a huge Three Bridges fan. I crushed that Saturday morning 8 a.m. class. It's one of my favorites. So love getting my flow in when I'm back in the Seacoast area.
Is that the one with Katie B?
Gosh, this is really bad because she's so sweet and she's very talented, but her name is escaping me who the instructor is for that one. But yeah, that's my go-to class for sure.
Love that. So is yoga a big part of your daily or weekly exercise routine?
It's a part of it. I dabble in some yoga. Honestly, the Saturday morning 8 a.m. it's also a mother-son bonding experience. My mom really loves that class, so I always try to go with her to that one. But yeah, I actually prefer Pilates. I've gotten into Pilates a lot more over the last 5 or 6 years. So Pilates is more integrated into my actual routine. I don't do much yoga when I'm down in Miami, but Three Bridges is a special place. So I like to go whenever I'm back home there.
Yeah, I love it. What do you love most about it?
My favorite thing about it is the pace of the class, that class in particular. Sometimes I've been to yoga classes where I'm not the most limber or flexible or capable in a yoga setting. So that class is available to people of all levels, which is nice. And you can kind of make the practice what you want it to be. So for me, that's exactly the lane I like to travel in.
I love to hear that. So we are, it's August right now when we're speaking. So we're in the thick of the Seacoast summer. And that is what the Seacoast is known for. So I'm dying to know, Duncan, when you were growing up in this area, how did you spend your Seacoast summers? What were your favorite activities to get up to?
Ooh, so many, man. I mean, I'm super partial to the area, having grown up there. I'm biased, but the Seacoast in the summer is truly just such a special place. The combination of, the land, the weather, the ocean, the mountains are within reach, all that. There's just so many activities. For me, I was always like a beach, jumping rock in Newcastle, that sort of area.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, paddle boards, kayaks around kind of the intercoastal there, within kind of the Portsmouth, Rye, Newcastle triangle, Sagamore Bridge, jumping off Sag. So all those things, are definitely big parts of my childhood. And of course, summer was always, travel sports season. So I was running around from basketball to baseball to lacrosse, just doing everything. So a lot of great memories that I love looking back on.
And when you were practicing basketball, where were you doing that?
Well, when I was training and working out, it was just kind of in local gyms in the area. I would kind of bounce around to whatever was available. Back in the day, the original Connie Bean was my favorite. Just an absolute mecca of a gym. To this day, it's probably my favorite gym that I've ever shot in. It's like a little shoebox, was a little shoebox of a spot. Hardly any room on the baseline or sidelines. Definitely not even like a high school length court. So super jam packed, but the amount of reps and shots that I've taken in that little place and is probably up there with any other gym that I've played in. And it was super sad to see it go. They turned it into condos and retail space, which was tough to see. But they have the new Connie Bean, which is still great, but doesn't have the same sort of character and charm. But yeah, a lot of time spent there, a lot of time spent at South Playgrounds, outside, until the lights went off at night. playing hooping and just being outside. And then also Newcastle Court. There's an outdoor court right there that I would just spend a ton of time on growing up as a kid as well.
So I live in the heart of downtown Portsmouth, and I'm sure it's changed a bunch since you were growing up here. I'm sure new businesses coming in all the time. In Portsmouth, what are your favorite activities, the spots that you were always hitting as a kid?
Growing up, just like the different food spots, always favorite of mine has always been Gillies. The little, the little burger, train caboose thing or whatever it is. Gillies is always a classic. Just other activities like downtown. Like we would just kind of get dropped off downtown, go to the Connie Bean, hoop for hours, 2 hours or whatever it is, and then just kind of walk around, hit Moe's Subs. You go and get a smoothie at the juicery sort of thing, and just kind of like hit all the different spots. And the great thing about Portsmouth is everything's always within walking distance. So that was always just a fun activity in the summer.
Now, I read on Wikipedia, which who knows how accurate that ever is, that you went to Rye for middle school, and then you had the option to go to high school in Portsmouth, but you ended up going to a school in Massachusetts. Is that correct?
Yeah. I ended up going to a boarding school. In hindsight, I do wish that I had done at least a year or two in Portsmouth. At the time, it was kind of a decision based towards basketball and athletics. I thought that I was probably a little bit better than I was back then, and thought that I needed to seek out a higher level, which the reality was at that time, I really didn't. But, it ended up working out, and I enjoyed my experience at Governor's down in Massachusetts. But, I'm sure I would have loved, going to Portsmouth High as well. But I had a lot of great memories, growing up, going to public school, MHT, and then also Rye Junior High. So both are great places, and I'm sure Portsmouth High would have been something similar.
And so you loved basketball growing up, and I heard you say that, of course, you grew up dreaming of playing in the NBA. Any kid in America who plays basketball grows up dreaming of that. But there's some people who know it's not a reality for them, just a pie in the sky. So I'm wondering for you, if you thought that you weren't going to make it to the NBA, what was the other option? What else were you going to do? What were you going to go to school for and study? And what did you envision your career being?
Yeah, my goal with basketball, once I really started committing myself to the game and training and really working at it, was really to use it to get me into a college that I probably wouldn't have been able to get into otherwise. And I had the opportunity to go to Williams College for a year, and my goal at that point was to be a great player there, maybe play a year or two overseas, and then use my degree to come back and get a real job. Obviously, my career as a basketball player kind of took on a life of its own, and things quickly sort of shifted and changed. But I still got my degree. I actually had a double major in political science and also sport management. So at some point, maybe I'll be able to fall back on those, which I plan on doing whenever I'm done playing. But in terms of the role and job that I would have had if I didn't play professionally, it's hard to say. I mean, I've committed my whole life to basketball, and I don't know that I could see myself not involved in the game in some capacity. So maybe I would have pursued some sort of like front office position or maybe a coaching role. But I also have a variety of interests, and I could have seen myself doing something different as well.
Well, your story is a very bizarre one in NBA lore, and it's one that's been well documented. Williams to Michigan, undrafted free agent. We don't need to get into all of that, but one of the stops along your journey was playing at Phillips Exeter High School, which in the Northeast, going prep school for a year is a common thing when you're quite not ready to make the jump full-time to college ball yet. When you reflect on your experience at Phillips Exeter, what comes to mind?
It was one of the best, years of my life for sure. Definitely a life-altering decision. I played 4 years of high school basketball and felt like I wasn't fully ready to make a transition into college, and I didn't have a ton of opportunities to go play in college, and that was a dream and goal of mine. So I had the opportunity to do a fifth year, and I was kind of young for my grade as it was, and I just kind of jumped at it. And thank goodness I did, because I just learned so much about becoming a better player, person, student, just everything. I mean, Phillips Exeter is a incredibly special place and challenging environment to be in. And that's from an academic and athletic perspective. And I just felt like it really forced me to grow a ton in just that, 9-10 months that I was on campus. So very grateful for my experience there. And I really think that year was really a springboard for a lot of my success moving forward, particularly at Williams. Being able to have the year that I had at Williams, I just don't think I would have been able to do that, without the year that I had learning from Coach Tilton, who's the head coach there, but then also just the whole experience, as a student, as a young kind of kid trying to become a man and kind of figure out, how I want to be, how I want to act, how I want to conduct myself. That was a huge part of it.
One of my favorite things to do, I'm a big self-reflector, and I love to look at the domino effect. Had this thing not happened 8 years ago, I wouldn't be where I am today. When you look back on the crazy road that you've had to where you are now with the Miami Heat, is there any single kind of one turning point that's bigger than all of the rest in terms of, I would not be here playing for the Miami Heat if I had not had this conversation, if this person had not entered my life, if this thing didn't happen on this day?
Oh man, there's so many of them. It's definitely not lost on me that so many things outside of my control had to kind of happen and break my way for me to have the journey that I've had. I try to maintain that perspective as much as possible. I think it naturally, forces you to kind of take a more humble approach just to everything, because you realize how difficult of an industry and profession, professional sports is. I think probably the biggest one that really kind of set everything off was, Coach John Beilein at Michigan, really taking a chance on me. And so many things just for him to make that decision had to happen prior to, but ultimately him choosing to give a full scholarship to a Division III kid was, virtually unprecedented at the time. And, it was a combination of a lot of things. The fact that he coached small college basketball prior, the fact that my coach at Williams was a former assistant of his, the fact that he had had the success that he'd had at Michigan prior and kind of felt like he could take a risk and a gamble on a kid like me. And ultimately, you got to give him the credit, because it was a decision that he made where a lot of people were probably being like, what are you doing? You're coming off a national championship appearance and an Elite Eight appearance. You could probably go get all sorts of 4- and 5-star recruits, but you're going to take a kid from a Division III school who hasn't proven it at all, who just 12 months earlier didn't have a single Division I offer. So I think that's probably the one that really set the stage for everything. And, then from there, I was able to really maximize, or try to maximize, my experience at Michigan. And that kind of got the ball rolling from there.
When you were at Michigan, surrounded by these elite players from all different parts of the country, and you would have conversations in the locker room about where you come from, how would you describe this area to them?
It kind of depends. Like if it's in passing, I'll just be like, yeah, I would sometimes say I'm from Boston, honestly. Sometimes I'd just say, if they knew the New England area, I'd be like, oh, I'm from New Hampshire. I now say I'm from New Hampshire. I don't say Boston, because I think I now realize how different New Hampshire is from Boston, and I take pride in that. I love New Hampshire. But it's always funny because I think, I've lived and played in different places, and a lot of people outside of New England don't even know really what to think when they think of New Hampshire. I think they probably think of fields or cows or mountains or whatnot. So I'll say New Hampshire, and then I'll just kind of leave it at that. Now, if there's somebody that's particularly curious or inquisitive, then, I'll sort of elaborate and try to be like, well, a lot of people don't realize this. New Hampshire has about, whatever it is, 12 to 15 miles of coastline tucked in there between North Shore, Boston, and Southern Maine. And that's kind of the area that I'm from. We call it the Seacoast, New Hampshire, and it's a special place. And now I've actually been able to get a lot of my closer friends who I've kind of met along my journey to the state of New Hampshire and kind of seen the area that I grew up with. And everybody has the same reaction. They're just like, I had no idea this was here. And everybody's always just impressed with just how beautiful of a place it is. It's just a very kind of like simple way to live, which I really appreciate.
That's amazing to hear. But I have to ask, why did you say Boston? Were you ashamed of New Hampshire?
No, certainly not ashamed. It was more so just to provide some sort of like context of the part of the country, right? Like I fly in and out of Boston whenever I would like go anywhere. So
Yeah.
it just kind of gave people a landing spot of like, oh, that's generally where you're from. I'm not trying to like claim Boston or anything like that. I take, like I said, I take a ton of pride in being from New Hampshire. It was just kind of an easier way to describe it, I guess.
So half identifying as being from Boston and also growing up as a Celtics fan, when you received a call from the Miami Heat as to sign with them as an undrafted free agent, what was your reaction?
Oh, I mean, just thrilled for the opportunity. It's an incredible franchise. They've done so many things, since their inception in 1988, and just everything that they stand for. There was a lot of alignment in how I hope to kind of go about my business and handle my business. So it's been a fun journey, being here down in Miami, and definitely wouldn't trade it for anything. Like you said, I grew up in Celtic country. Couldn't be further from a Celtic fan now, though.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
I'm sure when you're back here in the summers and people see you walking around, do you get love because you're from the area, or do people, since you're now enemy, how do they treat
you? People, especially locally. I mean, it's such a small, tight knit community. My mom is like super involved in the community, so it's mostly love. Every now and then, people will be like, oh, "I wish you played for the Celtics," which I generally don't really engage with or respond to. Just kind of smile and keep it moving. But always, there's been a lot of love and support, which I'm grateful for, and I take a lot of pride in being where I'm from, and that. I hope people kind of see it as a way forward, for young kids that love anything, whatever the sport or activity or experience is, that you can pursue something and go after it.
When you do suit up for the Heat playing at TD Garden in Boston, which I'm sure you attended many times as a kid, what emotions come to your mind when you step on that floor?
I mean, there were early on in my career, for sure. And, that was always kind of like a surreal, fun experience. Now I don't want to say it's normalized, but we played them so much, particularly in the postseason. We played them 4 or 5 times, in my 6 years, 4 times. So it's been a little bit normalized, which is, I don't ever take for granted because it's such a cool experience, but it's just sort of becomes just another, competitor and another opportunity to compete. So I will say one of the highlights of my career was not this past year, but the year prior, beating them in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals on that floor and celebrating with my family on that floor, bringing them down from the stands and just having that moment of everybody there. Like you said, in an arena that, I was fortunate enough to go to some games, and, growing up. So that was definitely a cool moment.
That's amazing. The Miami Heat are known for, we throw this term around a lot, heat culture, which is basically just saying how much the Heat system and the Erik Spoelstra and the front office, how much they build up players to maybe be better than what they would have been in other organizations. Do you think that you would not have the NBA success that you currently have without having landed with the Miami Heat?
I mean, I think it's hard to say. I mean, it's impossible to know an alternative reality of what that would look like. Obviously, I think it's been a mutually beneficial relationship, but I definitely feel indebted to, Coach Spo, somebody who gave me a chance and an opportunity. I understand that those are not just handed out. And, I've been very fortunate to play for this team, this city, wear this jersey. I mean, it's meant the world to me. And I try to go out every night that I possibly can and represent everybody, proudly. There's ups and downs, like any sort of profession or journey or what have you. There's challenges that come with it. But I mean, I also feel that, given my approach and how I handle my business and everything that, it could there have been success elsewhere? I would say yes, but it also doesn't mean that it's guaranteed elsewhere. This is obviously the situation that I've been put in, and just try to make the most of the opportunity that lays in front of me.
Like I said, and just a couple more questions, and then I'll get you out of here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Coach Spoelstra is one of the most highly regarded, if not the most highly regarded coach in the NBA. He's one of the longest tenured coaches in the NBA. I'm sure he's taught you so much throughout your time with the Miami Heat. Does anything come to mind in terms of the biggest lesson that you have learned from Coach Spoelstra?
Yeah, there's so many things. I mean, Spo is at the absolute peak and top of his profession, and for good reason. I mean, he's incredibly bright, incredibly hardworking. His approach every single day is just so impressive. I think, as much as anything, I think he's really ingrained a disposition into me as a player and a sort of will to compete. Not saying that I didn't have that, but I think he really, really sharpened it and brought it out of me and encouraged me to be like the best version of myself. And at points in my career has seen something for me that I maybe didn't necessarily see in that moment, and worked to kind of pull that out of me, which I'm very grateful for. And I've learned so much from him. I mean, the X's and O's are what they are, but I think just him as a leader, and the way that he just handles his business, I think permeates just throughout the entire organization, and we're all better because of it.
And then you also played with Dwyane Wade, one of the all-time Heat legends. Your first season was his last season. So what was that like getting to play with one of the Heat legends, but NBA legends?
Yeah, really, really cool experience. I mean, that was year one for me. Things were just coming at me super fast. It's like trying to drink through a fire hose. Just all the things coming at you, the language, the play style, the demands of the travel, just everything. And, anytime that I would just try to be a sponge around somebody like him. And, for him being in his final year, he doesn't owe me anything, obviously, as an undrafted rookie. And there were a variety of times where he had the opportunity to pull me and take me aside and just kind of give me some advice and just sort of be a mentor and friend, which really meant a lot to me, because I know he didn't have to do it. And, it was just cool watching his approach and how he handled the game, how he took care of his body, and just how he handled just the craziness, all the love and fan support, and how he was able to compartmentalize that and still focus on competing and winning. So I learned a ton from him, and, try to keep in touch with him whenever I can. It's always great to see him. We're not, best of friends by any means, but, he's definitely a mentor of sorts.
Last question for you, Duncan. When I was perusing the internet, I came across a YouTube video that you did with probably someone from the Heat's internal entertainment team or something. And you played a little game. It was to name 5 of the 6 core Dunkin' Donuts flavored donuts. And you failed to get them in the amount of time properly.
I think I missed the last one because it was plain, I believe, was the issue, which that seems like a technicality. I don't know why somebody would say.
Yeah, honestly, I was calling BS on this because I looked into figure out, okay, what are the 6 flavors? I couldn't find anywhere on the Dunkin' Donuts website claiming these 6 flavors as the 6 flavors. So
exactly,
as a redemption shot, I wanted to, there's 9 Munchkins that you can get. I want you to tell me 5 Munchkin flavors.
I could definitely do that. Chocolate glazed, regular glazed, plain apparently is one of these.
Nope, no plain.
There's no plain. Okay.
No. Well, so you've got
jelly filled.
Yep, 3.
For sure. There's gotta be isn't there like a cinnamon something or like
cinnamon. That's 4.
Cinnamon, and There is also isn't there like a powder something?
There you go. There you go. You've redeemed yourself.
There you go. Good. I bounced back. Learn from your mistakes.
There you go. We appreciate it, Duncan.
What are the other 4?
Okay, so in total, we've got butternut, cinnamon, glazed blueberry, glazed chocolate, glazed old-fashioned, jelly, old-fashioned, and powdered. Now, maybe old-fashioned is plain.
Is plain, yes. Okay. So you tried to get me too, it seems. You're out to get me. Old-fashioned is definitely plain, for sure.
I guess so. And then final question. How's your back doing? You were hampered toward the end of last season. How's the rehab?
It's doing a lot better. Took some
because of the
time
yoga
off season. Yeah, it took some time in the off season to get it right, which was good. So going to be coming into the season, at 100%, which I'm excited about.
Well, glad to hear it. I'm rooting for you, Duncan. I don't know about the rest of the Seacoast here and the Celtics fans. Speedy recovery, getting back to 100%. Have a great off season and a great season. We look forward to you doing even bigger and better things and continuing to make all of us here proud.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me. This is fun. I'm going to check out some of these other Seacoast stories.